Welcome to the Successful Nurse Coach podcast. On this podcast, Laura
and Shelby, both board-certified nurse coaches, show you how to make as much money as you want in private practice as a nurse coach.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Successful Nurse Coach podcast. It is Shelby here today, and I am so excited because I have a very, very special guest joining us today, Sarah Travers, and I am so stoked to bring Sarah on the podcast to share her with all of you so that you can get to know her story and how much of a badass she is. And we are pressing record on this podcast on the tail end of some really epic news, which we will share with you here in a second. I want to take a second here to speak Sarah into the space, and I just hope that you see the gem that Sarah is in her heart and her soul, and just genuinely, you're so committed to your path and nurse coaching and all the things. I could probably go on for the next 5 minutes of how deeply I care for you and love you. But I will boil it down to a 30-second clip here for the sake of our podcast this morning. So Sarah is a transformational embodiment coach. She is also certified in breathwork. And most recently, Sarah is a children's book author about dyslexia, which is really, really freaking cool. Sarah is also one of our year 2 clients. She's a master client of ours. And Sarah has been on the Successful Nurse Coach evolution for, I don't know, forever now. You've grown with us along the way. You will always have a little special pocket in my heart. And I'm just so excited to have you here. Thanks for being here with us this morning.
I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah. Okay. So Sarah's here actually to talk to us about something really close to her heart, really important. And I was telling Sarah right before we hit record, I was like, I think that this is just going to be a really deep breath of fresh air for some of you who have different learning abilities and may wrestle with that of how do you fit into entrepreneurship. And Sarah is going to be talking to us about dyslexia today. And Sarah, I kind of want to hand it over to you right out of the gate, because you can't be the only person I know with dyslexia, but you are the only person I know that I have coached with dyslexia. And I kind of just want to give you the mic here and hear your story as far back as you're willing to go on it.
I'm pretty open about it, so that's probably why you hear a lot about it. So for me, I was diagnosed when I was in 2nd grade. School was really hard, and I think the biggest thing that I have learned through all of this is allowing people to believe in me when I was a kid, when I didn't have that internal belief of my learning ability, because there was people in my life when I was younger who said I was dumb or stupid, or that I was just not going to be capable of ever reading. That my parents' belief in me really just made me always feel super grounded and feel very capable of anything. They never ever said you can't do that because you can't read. And like I said, school was really hard. It was kind of an uphill climb. But it really taught me about being persistent, and it taught me about when there's fear, that it's okay to push and start again. And I feel like I've done that in my business. I feel like I've done that in my career. I feel like I've started from the beginning and just allowing myself to push past the fear and know that no matter what, I'm on the right path to creating something that I can help other people, especially in this dyslexia journey. We're also getting my daughter tested for dyslexia, which has kind of been the push to write this book of this. It's a beautiful place to be, thinking outside the box. It's a beautiful place to be a little bit more empathetic. And it's really allowed my journey in coaching to be where it is, because I feel like I got that nudge to leave the hospital. It wasn't working. It didn't feel right. And I could start from the beginning, and I didn't have to have fear in starting from the beginning, because I know I can start over and that there's beauty in that.
Yeah. So So well said. And what's shining through for me right now, Sarah, is that like you have been primed for the world of coaching and the world of entrepreneurship and the world of being a small business owner, like maybe without really knowing. I know you come from a family of small business owners and like, an entrepreneurial lineage, if you will, but um like how you're kind of by design meant to be outside of the box.
Yeah, I think thinking outside of the box is just, I'm really able to see beyond like the one or two trees. I feel like I really can see the big picture. And I think that
Mm.
with my learning disability, I've just had to always think in bigger pictures. And it's also the people, were people that didn't believe in me. But it's also the people who did believe in me and gave me that external belief of myself that was so empowering. As a teacher in middle school that I can think of, there was a couple teachers in college. My whole high school career was just like a powerhouse of people who believed in me. And so when those people who didn't believe in me, it was such a disbelief that I like, while it hurt because our words still have power, it was almost laughable because I knew I was smart. I just think differently, and thinking differently doesn't equate to being bad or anything. It just equates to like, it takes me a little bit more time, or I have to think about it a different way, or I have to ask people to reframe it so that I can understand it. And so those teachers and my parents always, and I actually had a couple of really, really fantastic friends throughout my career of being even in childhood, who like took the time to re-explain it. My college roommate and I like studied together in a way that like I made it through college, but I also had professors that like truly helped me think outside the box of how I could be successful. And that is so powerful. And so I like to do that with my clients too, is just allowing them to, when it doesn't feel like this is the right way, like, let's try it a new way. Let's, you haven't been successful in doing it this way. Well, have you thought about it in a different way?
Ooh, yeah. Great segue here on like this. I think one of our greatest assets as coaches are like bringing a really, really deep and rooted and grounded sense of belief in our clients, right? And this like plays into the whole, I mean, shameless plug, but the whole successful nurse coach method, right? Where we coach to the vision and like the big juicy goal. And that for our clients feels really, really lofty, right? It feels like it's in their heart, but they're like, dude, how do I pull that off? That feels so big. I don't even know where to start. And bringing the belief to the table of like, okay, we might not have the how, but I just believe that you can figure it out. Like, that's what most people need to hear. And it sounds like you've had some really epic people in your corner, Sarah, to like be an example of that for you. And now you kind of, I mean, it's really clear to me how you bring that into your container, but I would love for you to speak a little more into that of how your belief influences your work that you do with clients.
I think it's also coming to like our values of like, when I was in the hospital, I was really living out of alignment of like my values. And so I really like to help my clients find what their values are. And then when they start to realize that they're living out of alignment with their values and they're living out of their body, because I tend to do this too, is like living in my head of like trying to answer for like what I think is the right answer versus like what I really believe in my gut, and listening to those intuitions, because they're really there. They might be subtle, but when I go back to like different places and times of my life when I didn't listen to my gut, I can always be like, well, that was a really clear one, Sarah. So helping clients to like feel in their bodies and feel into their values versus just like in their head thinking about them. And when you start to feel and live in your values and live in your body, you can really make a big difference of your own belief. It doesn't have to be other people's belief anymore.
Yeah. Oh, is there a way to I feel like I'm using coachy buzzword after coachy buzzword. I'm like, expand on that, Sarah. Tell me more. Elaborate. Illuminate. But that what you just said of whenever I can bring people out of their head, into their body, into their values, then like the belief naturally grows from there. Do you have maybe like a real world example that you can share in a patient protected way with us?
Well, I would actually just like really small plug for my book, but like it's so small, but my mom used to trace words on my back so that I could feel the words. And that like to me it's such a brief part in the book, but like that part to me, when we were talking about the book, like I very vividly remember like she would write the word, let's just go with like love. Like she would write it, love, LOVE, and she would write each letter on my back so that I could feel the word, not just the letters, but also like the meaning of it too. Or if it was like, you know, just a plain old spelling word, THE, like I could feel the word, not just think it, but feel it. So that was like more of a me being able to feel in like the dyslexia, but like more than just like, okay, we're going to practice spelling words. We're also going to like be in them. But with my clients, I'm trying to think of like a specific client I have. She came onto a call and she was really upset. She was just very overwhelmed. Life is just feeling like she doesn't really know what she needs. And so we slowed down and we found the ability for her to like ask her, like, what is it that you need right now? And she would like, you know, it was like really easy things like, what do I need right now? I need to go eat, like just kind of these basic things. But when we kind of came down to it, it was that she needed connection. She, you know, was angry at her family because she has to ask for it. She can't just assume that they'll be there for her. And she's always giving, but she's never asking for it because then she figured out that like, if she asks for it, she feels weak. But in reality, she's like, I'm not actually weak because I'm just stating my needs. So it was allowing her to like connect to her body and realize that like, yeah, there's these like smaller, like I think I want these things. But when she was really able to like tap down into it, was like connection, but like asking for it meant she was weak. But in reality, like asking and meeting your needs is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of like setting boundaries and setting up for success for what your needs are.
Yeah. I'm not sure because I feel like I've bumped up against that belief within myself of like the asking for help makes you weak. And I've bumped up a lot with it with clients as well. And I'm like, where did we all plug in to that belief? Like, where in the world did that come from? Because humans by nature are emotionally needy. That's how we're wired, you know? We're wired to co-regulate with one another and attune to one another and help each other in this way. Like humans by design are made this way. And like what a powerful reframe that is to guide someone through. Like that, yeah. I mean, the ripple effect of that is significant.
I even come back to like I think there's been like a period of time in my adult life where asking for help was met with failure. That it was a sign of weakness, and it has taken a little bit of reframe because originally pre these experiences, asking for help was like, I felt like my superpower. Like I was just able to always ask for what my needs were. I was very easily able to address what the needs were. Like in school, in the day to day, like I need help on my science thing that I'm in school for. Like, what is it that I need? I need to go to office hours. And like, when are your office hours in college? Like, what is it I need for my learning disability? I need a reader for my test. Even actually for the, taking the test for being board certified, I actually got retested for my dyslexia, kind of crazy, because I knew I needed spaced for it to be longer. Like I needed more time to be able to read it. I actually asked for a reader and it wasn't able to be given to me. They didn't have that available yet, which is fine. I was able to do it, but like asking for what I needed and knowing that like sometimes your needs can't be met, but sometimes they can be. And I think that is such a powerful learning experience, even doing it again in my adult life, of like, I need this. I will not be successful without it. I will not pass this test without the extra time. And that doesn't mean that I'm anything less than somebody else who passed it in 20 minutes. It just takes me a little bit longer to read. I have to read it out loud. I have to like hear it and see it and feel it versus just reading it and knowing the answer.
Right. Yes. You know, even as you're, I was hoping you were going to say it and you said it, of like asking for help, and sometimes your needs are met and sometimes they're not. You just so poetically stated Shelby's biggest trigger ever right there. Is I'm like, whenever I ask for help, and then, I mean, that's just, again, the nature of the life we live in, is that not all of our needs can be met, and then having capacity on the other side of when they can't. Like, you just breeze back past that. I don't know what that's really like in real life for you, Sarah, but you breeze past that of like, it is what it is. And I'm like still hung up from, you know, all the times I've asked for help and it hasn't happened. But that is like a deep well of space there, just to be bold and asking for the support that you need. It's huge.
Yeah. I mean, even as a nurse manager, I asked for help. And while I had people that supported me and were really okay to help, sometimes it was met with like, well, you should be able to do this on your own. And it's kind of, I mean, my mom always said, like, with learning disability, it'd be like me saying to somebody like, you can't have glasses to see the board. Like, that would feel really mean, right? Like, you'd feel like, well, why can't I have glasses? I can't see the board without it. I just need the extra time, or I need somebody to help proofread it, or I need somebody to help. Like, it's not that I don't have the content. It's not that I don't have it there. It's just need a little bit more support around it. So like, you wouldn't take glasses away from somebody who needed them, just like taking away the little extra time it takes me to take a test. Asking for those needs to be met, like, sometimes they are met with like, that's not reasonable, or we can't make that accommodation. And then I have to figure out like, okay, well, where do I go from here? Sometimes it's, you know, like when I was told I couldn't have a reader, it was like, I called the board of nursing, like not the board of nursing, the holistic board of nursing, to be like, why isn't this a thing? And they've like, well, we've never had it been asked before. And I'm like, well, it should be. And I had like 2 conversations and we couldn't get it figured out in time for me to take the test. I could have waited 6 months, but I figured I'd take it. And if I failed, I'd wait the 6 months. So in that instance, it wasn't met, but it was still heard. And I think that's a lot of the times too, is like, I think people, when they have like, people want to be heard and seen. And so I think that's the other part, is like helping people be heard and seen. Has so much value.
Yeah. Yep. Agreed. That has been the advice that we've been given, Laura and I, for like, I don't know, 8 months. It's just like, how do we solve this problem? It's like, just hear them and see them. And I'm like, okay, great. But like, how do I solve the problem? And they're like, the problem will be solved through hearing and seeing. Yeah. It's, I mean, general advice, but like actually very, very potent. And even hearing it from your point of view, Sarah, of like, that problem did not get resolved, right? You still had to figure it out anyway. But that there is some piece there of like, that it was heard, and maybe for the next person, it gets to be a resource available.
Right.
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay, my friend, I heard you mention in the beginning, you mentioned fear, which my ears just go like beep. They like perk up whenever people say that word. It's one of my favorite things to kind of like dig in on. So I'm just even kind of like recapping your story here of like, you have had some supportive people in your corner. You've had some people that are just like Debbie Downers raining on the parade. But like, I hear this, what shines through, I think, the most is just like the tenacity and the grit, Sarah, to like go after the things you want, to follow your compass, to your inner purpose, like that kind of like your brain is set up differently to solve problems differently, which is great for entrepreneurs, right? Like that's like the whole kind of point that we're here is to help people in a more powerful and aligned way. But I'm curious, you know, I don't have to tell you, you've been in our community long enough that like, nurse coaches really wrestle with fear and their relationship to fear. And I'm curious, I'm just curious about how, with your particular relationship to fear in doing new things or starting over, whenever you feel the fear, take me through your process.
So I think it depends. So like in the beginning, like being vulnerable and showing up on social media, there's fear around that. Is there still fear? At times. I think sometimes it feels hard to connect. So the fear for me is, I'm trying to think of I think the fear is also being seen and heard of how can I get myself out there and seen and heard in a way that lands on people. And then with my writing, I feel like it has to be double checked. So I tend to get my husband to check it, and he's like, it looks fine. I don't know why you need me to check this anymore. But for so long, it was so criticized that my writing was not good enough, and that or it wasn't, people couldn't understand it. So there's just fear around that space of showing up vulnerably, which is not really necessarily the hard part. It's the vulnerability is more in the actual physical writing part of it, and getting that from pen to paper. Cause God, I've got a lot of ideas, but it's getting them out and down. And so the fear for me tends to be oh, I had to start again. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but at the same time, sometimes I'm oh, I don't want to have to start again.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is making sense right now. But there's fear.
I'm tracking. Yes.
Okay. There's fear in the doing too, of is this going to make sense for everybody around me? And in my own body, it feels sometimes a little squirrely, or I always sort of say it feels like it comes out out of me. And Shelby, I'm having a hard time right here.
Yeah, take a breath. You're good.
So the fear of I think it's the fear of writing, truly.
Yeah.
I think the last couple years has gotten me to this point. So the last couple years of showing up vulnerably and showing up on social media and showing up in my community and telling people what I do, the fear is not quite as big anymore. It's still there, but I now have so many people. We had our Christmas party this past weekend, and I had probably 10 or 15 people come up to me that I don't see other than at our Christmas party, be I love your posts. I wait for them regularly. And so it just allows that fear of so they are landing, people are seeing them, and I am being heard, and that my words on paper do hold value to people. And so the fear has shifted in the last 3 years around writing.
Yeah. Huge. Yeah. And I can see it from the linear point of view, right? Of being younger, being in school, maybe being before diagnosed and learning how to write. I can just sense the level of potential criticism here, around writing in particular. And then it feels, Sarah, not to put words in your mouth here, but it feels like a reclamation of sorts of yes, I can write, and it can land, and people wait for my posts every single week whenever I write them. And I'm an author of a freaking book. It feels very triumphant for me. I won't say what it feels like for you, but for me, I'm yes, Sarah.
I mean, there are a few people that I spitefully want to give a book to, and then others that I'm oh, I really just want to give this to you because you helped transform. I probably won't go out on my way to do the spiteful ones, but they can just know it.
Yeah, I was I'll pay for the postage on those if you change your mind.
Yeah. So, but there are people that I feel at the end of all of this, I look back and think you really made a difference in my life. And I want to be able to support people in their fear of like, whatever it is. It might be writing, it might be something else, but whatever your fear is, maybe it's like connecting. I have a lot of clients, I think it's like fear of like being in their bodies, being like fear of like actually slowing down, fear of like asking their needs. So like helping them find that and being able to really support them in whatever their fear is and being with them in that, like we can feel it. And I love to support people in their fear and that they can come out on the other side and realize like, wow, I had no idea I could do that. Mm-hmm. Like I had no idea. If you had asked me 6 weeks ago if I was going to be writing a book, I would have told you hell no.
Yeah, this has all moved very quickly. This is
very
all
quickly.
Like speed manifestation right here in front of all of our eyeballs. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. In the best way. I love that. I think also too, Sarah, and I think that a lot of our nurse coaches can relate. The nurse coaching community in particular, like we've been through some shit, you know, like each of us has like our own little baggage that we're bringing in to our entrepreneurial journey. And they're battles that are hard fought, you know, with anxiety, depression, or overcoming learning disabilities or ADHD or Hashimoto's or like whatever the thing may be. We all got our thing, or maybe a couple of things. And I think that this is what makes us really powerful coaches, is that like, I'm not going to run or I'm not going to like get the wide-eyed look on my face if you say something really unsettling, or like you can tell me your biggest, deepest fear and I'm just going to hold it alongside you and we're going to be with it. And I think this is what sets nurse coaches in particular apart from the coaching industry in general, because we have our own personal story and then we have all of the extra BS from when we worked in the hospital or worked in the clinic. You know, like our capacity is truly significant in I mean, this is just to toot everybody's horn. I think we're great. But that your story in particular speaks really, really well to that.
Thank you. Yes. It's definitely a journey. And I'm glad to be on it. Sometimes I'm like, could we make this journey a little bit easier? But I kind of also go back to like life, like it's never really been all that easy. So like, why did I think this was going to be any different?
Yeah. Good point. Oh man. Okay, Sarah, I kind of want to, because I think that again, your perspective is so like, it's the only one that matters here for this question I'm about to ask you. But I kind of want to ask if there was two pieces of advice. So if there is a piece of advice for a fellow nurse coach that has a learning disability, is neurodivergent, or somewhere to where they feel like a little like I'm on the outside looking in, how do I fit here? If you have a piece of advice for them. And then also too, if you had a piece of advice for another mom that may have a dyslexic kiddo, what are some words of wisdom you wish to pass along?
So I think it kind of goes with both. For at least the first one is patience. So like patience with yourself, patience with your kid, patience with the process, and like you don't have to be like everybody else. And so don't compare yourself to everybody, because it just when I start to go down the rabbit hole of like, this isn't going to work, I can't do it, there's too many people out there, is like because I'm comparing myself to like everybody else around me. And like I'm not like anybody else, just like everybody else is not like anybody else. But like my journey of dyslexia is not like anybody else's, but the patience with the teachers and my family and my friends with me, I can't sort of thank them and love them enough for the patience that I was always given. And so give it to yourself, give the patience to yourself in this process. It's a journey. And if you really want to do it, keep pushing, or keep doing it however it feels right for you.
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. All right, everybody, I'm going to say it one more time, just in case you need to hear it more than once, but patience with yourself and stop comparing to everybody else. Please, please. Great advice, Sarah. I lied. I have one more question for you here to wrap up. And aside from patience and not comparing, is there anything that being a small business owner, an entrepreneur, a nurse coach, however we want to categorize it, what is like your biggest lesson learned about yourself in this space?
I'm beautiful. And I have a beautiful way to be able to share things, and it doesn't have to. I think that's it. It's just like, I'm beautiful and I get to share my gift with other people and allow them to find their beauty within themselves. Because everybody gets to leave feeling a little bit different about themselves. And I love when it clicks and that they realize whatever it is that's been holding them back, whatever it is that's been making them feel like they can't do it, and it clicks, and then all of a sudden they can do it. It's so beautiful to watch.
Yeah. Ugh. Man, way to land the plane so well on that last note, Sarah. Yes, you are beautiful. Your message is beautiful, and it is so inspiring. And having a sideline seat to your evolution over the past several years, it's not mind-blowing because I've always seen it here for you. And it's just, in the same breath, it's just really cool to watch you step into it. Like, we've gotten to work with you for an extended period of time, and we usually let our clients fly the nest, and we keep re-inviting you back into the nest in a sort of way, Sarah. And so it's just really fun to get to see all of the bigger and grander versions that you step into, and in some ways, it's just all still just the beginning. Like, it's still just we're at first base, and it's really freaking cool to watch.
Thank you. It's fun to be a part of.
Oh, well, thank you, Sarah, for sharing your gift and your stories. And if any of you are curious on how to find Sarah, we're going to put all of her stuff in the description. So just go check her out. She's there. If you want to see this writing that we've spent so much time talking about, go check out her Facebook page. A lot of it lives there. And then also, if you are, I don't think that it'll be ready by the time this podcast goes live, but either in a few short weeks, for Sarah's book, check out the link. We'll put it there, and I can't wait. I got a sneak peek before we started recording, and it's such a special story, and I can't wait to have a physical one in my hands. Be like, I know this person. One of my people wrote a book. This is so cool. So I think it can make a really sweet gift as well, for yourself or for someone you know. And thanks for hanging out with us this morning, Sarah. We appreciate you. We love you. And yeah, I mean, I'll see you shortly, but I appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having me.
All right, everybody. Toodles.